Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Between the Sticks. As you all know by now, I'm Sahib, this is Nabil, and we're back here for a bit more fun again this week. As always, a big shout out and a thank you to everybody for showing the love and support that you guys do, for tuning in and watching all our content. As always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, guys.
I know we changed colour. Click it. Go click it. It changes colour.
That's it.
Let's go.
Let's go. Nabil. The Carlton Football Club, I said last week, and they proved me right.
The Carlton Football Club, man. Oh, my God.
What is going on? Now, this is beyond the point of being a joke now. Like,
look, it's
actually sad.
Look, man, check in on your Carlton supporter friends.
You all hear that?
We are not doing well. So if you have friends, family, check in on them. If they support the Carlton Football Club, they are not okay.
Oh, my God. A couple of weeks ago, I talked shit about Essendon. I said they were rubbish. They went out the following weekend and proved me right. I called Carlton the Cartoon Football Club last week. They went out last weekend and proved me right.
You're right again.
What would you do if you were stuck in one place and every day was exactly the same and nothing that you did mattered?
That sums it up for me.
What is going on? What is going on with the rubbish that's around your neck?
Let me try and hopefully come to some conclusion by the end of this
Resuscitate
episode.
this team.
Resuscitate or something.
Let it go.
But I've been doing some thinking today.
Okay.
At the end of the day. Been doing some thinking.
Go on.
Stephen Silvani.
Yes, a legend of the football club.
Legend of the football club.
Yep.
Played in a premiership in 1995.
He did.
His son Jack was born in 97.
2 years later, okay.
2 years later. His son Jack was drafted at Carlton when he was 18 years old. He's now
10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Alrighty.
He's now 27.
Okay.
That entire time, we've been shit.
Oh my
God.
days.
Oh my God.
So for 30 years, basically this kid's whole lifetime,
Nothing. Okay.
absolutely nothing.
I get it. We played in a grand final in 1999, but
Okay,
after
but
2000,
still,
2001.
You're not that far off 30 years, to be honest.
Rubbish, man. I've got another stat for you.
I was just about to bring that up. You'll say something to me off
Yeah,
camera, Mel.
off camera. Couldn't wait, man.
Go on.
Since 2000, or maybe
Yes.
2000, we've won 5 wooden spoons, man. 5 wooden spoons.
So an average of 1 wooden spoon every 5 years.
Something like, well, yeah, you've done the maths. Yeah, spot on.
So 25 divided by 5 is
Yeah.
5. So
my
you guys
God.
have won and no premierships to show for. No dominant period to say, hey, we actually played
No.
well.
I've got a dominant period for you.
Which is what?
10 games during
my
the second half
Oh my
of
God. Hey, listen,
2023.
we
That's
start-
it.
No, no,
That's it. In 30 years, we've had a 10-game stretch where we've dominated clubs and played in the prelim. That's all we've got to show for it.
That's what I was about to say. So in the 30 years or the 25 years that you guys have been collecting wooden spoons like they're Pokemons, you guys have had a 10 or 12 game stretch
That's
where
it.
you guys have played very well and everybody's gone, oh, Carlton are actually a half-decent
yeah.
team.
Well, yeah. I mean, before that, the only off
So-
the top of my head I can think of is 2011 when I was like, what? I don't know. 13, 14
15,
years old,
14,
years
15,
or
yeah.
whatever it is.
Yep.
Where we had a good season. But outside of that,
Even
man,
then, what did you guys finish that year? Semi-final?
Yeah, semi-final.
Okay.
That was it.
Even that against teams that you weren't in the top category of
Nah.
the biggest teams at that time.
We were okay.
Hawthorn,
Yeah.
Geelong, Collingwood, those were the
We
top
were
4
behind,
teams.
Yeah, so we beat Geelong that season, but that's
That's history
story, yeah. I want to talk about what's wrong with the Carlton Football
right
Club.
now. Go on.
Michael Voss.
Yeah. Look at the camera and tell them
Michael
this.
Voss. Bro, some people ain't got it. It's okay if you ain't got it. Ma salama. Thank you very much.
The door's that way.
The football department.
Yep.
Brad Lloyd.
Yep.
Ma salama. Thank you very much.
Show everybody the
Any
exit.
board member who's been involved in the sacking of more than 2 coaches, ma salama. Thank you very much.
Speaking of coaches, this was also something that you mentioned off camera. How many coaches have you guys had since 2000?
We've had 7 coaches
Since
since
2000.
2000.
Which is about an average of one
Whatever.
coach every 3.5 seasons.
Something
If we
like that.
if
yeah,
we go
something
off
like that, yeah.
there, So one coach every 3.5 seasons is crazy work.
It's
If you're telling me, if you're talking to me,
Insane.
we've had 3 coaches in that time,
That's nuts, man. And
which is an average of about 1 coach every 8 and a bit years.
Oh, yeah. There's so much wrong with the club, man. There's so much wrong. And you know what? I'm ready for coach number 8. I'm hoping whoever comes in changes the club.
Yep.
I don't know who it is.
Yep.
Hopefully Graham Wright
Yep.
changes things around.
Do they need to bring one of the old legendary coaches?
Leave the legends.
Leave them alone.
I don't know,
You
man.
don't want Lee
We
Matthews
need
to come out of retirement to coach
The
Carlton.
Carlton Football Club is stuck in the past, man. Look, I'm the first to bring up 16 premierships.
Yeah, that's your
Leave
argument
the
every 5 minutes.
premierships at the door. Let's look forward. You know what it reminds me of?
What?
It reminds me of those kids that peaked in high school and 30 years later, they're still talking about how good high school was.
How much of a popular kid they were in high school.
So, look.
Hey, you know what, Carlton fans? I'm going to give it to you all right now. This Carlton fan is the biggest one and the most fanatic one I know.
I love it.
But this reasoning, I had never, ever in my life seen or heard before.
I love this club. I genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, I love this club. But it feels like that loss on Thursday night.
That wasn't just a loss, brother.
It was
a plastering.
It was a plastering. But beyond that, it felt like a generational end. Like, that's it. This 10-year rebuild we started in 2015.
Wow.
The green shoots, the hope. It just feels like it's all come to an end. And that's the hardest part. It's like, there's no hope, man. There's no hope. What's the point in sport if there's no hope?
To say you guys haven't achieved anything from rebuilding a team to it basically crumbling is what I'm going to say at this point. That's what's happening. And you guys haven't achieved anything besides the 10 or 12 game run to a prelim, which you guys lost. At least if you guys made like 1 or 2 prelims, and I'd be like, okay, at least there was a dominant period.
Yeah.
Fans you guys have won 7 games in the last 20 games you guys have played.
Ooh, I did not know that stat. And I know most of them
I actually picked up that stat the other day. In the last 20 games, so counting to about this time last year or a little after halfway through last year to now, you guys have won 7 games. And you know who those 7 games have come against?
I know 3 of them was...
4 of them are against West Coast and North. So West Coast twice, North twice, Richmond once, Geelong once, and St Kilda once. So the only half decent team that you guys beat out of the 7 was Geelong. Early this year.
That's the Carlton Football Club.
7 out of the last 20 games. That is diabolical.
And I'm sorry, that's on the coach. I'm sorry, that's on the coach. Thank you very much for your time.
He said the door's that way.
Thank you very much. You can't survive a record like that. So,
what do you think? What do you think the way forward for Carlton is now? Or do we even think there's a way forward right now?
The way forward is Graham Wright. Hopefully, he gets the right people in. Hopefully, we get a coach that has a game plan. We get the right players in.
I think Carlton need to stop setting expectations and just set hopes.
They need to
just hopes.
They need to stop living in the past. They need to start looking forward. Start setting out some goals, man. Just start. I don't know. That's all I've got. Hopefully next week, because hopefully we beat Collingwood, and I'm in a much better mood this next week.
You guys are in for some sort of a week if you think that's happening.
So,
but speaking of Collingwood,
let's talk about Collingwood.
Yes, let's talk about a football team that's actually playing football.
Let's talk about Collingwood.
And that knows how to succeed.
Let's talk about Collingwood.
First versus 18th on the weekend, and the first, obviously and inevitably, prevailed. They got across the line.
They nearly lost.
Yeah, I was gonna. I knew you were gonna bring this shit up. I knew you were gonna bring it up. I mean, I don't think we nearly lost. I think we just didn't play as well as we normally do in the first half. Which
West Coast played well.
Yes, I can wholeheartedly agree to that. I think West Coast played very well, and I think Scott Pendlebury said it at the end of the game. We were being a bit too cutesy.
Yeah.
With the way we were playing that first half, overhand passing, kicking instead of just gaining territory, kicking it. We were kind of like, just hand pass it to the next closest guy.
That's what it looked like. Yeah.
And I could almost say, even though I know West Coast are 18th, I think we didn't give them the respect that they deserved as a football team.
They played really well.
And their youngsters played very well.
Yeah.
I think a few of their older senior players
They did.
stepped up as well. Liam Baker, Jack Graham,
Yes.
the boys that moved over from Richmond last year, which I think were pretty good pickups as well.
Baker's been good for them.
Very good.
Baker's been good for them all season, to be fair.
Absolutely. So yeah, to the shock of me, because I didn't get to watch the first part or the first half of that game. So to the shock of me, when I turned it on about 5 minutes to the third quarter and I realized the scores were pretty even, I said, this is not okay. I said, what's going on here?
I was celebrating, man. I was hoping for you guys to lose, but it turned it around, unfortunately.
I mean, as always, good teams do. I think I mentioned this last week or the week before when I said Geelong were only up by a goal against West Coast when they played them a couple of weeks back.
Another gear.
And then fourth quarter kicked in, and then they kind of, basically just moved into another gear and then ended up beating them by 6 or 7 goals. I think the same thing happened on the weekend with us. I think the first half, we just kind of mucked around a little too much, played around too much. Probably didn't get the job that we needed to get done. I think everybody imagined or thought we were going to belt them by over 10, 12 goals.
They outperformed themselves.
Yeah. And there was one man I wanted to speak about from the weekend.
You mentioned it off camera.
Mr. Scotty Pendlebury.
How good is he?
At the age of 37 now,
Yep.
he's still running around like he's 27.
Yeah.
In the midfield at that. And just to go off a few of his stats from the weekend, he had 28 disposals, a goal, 9 clearances,
Wow.
10 inside 50s.
Wow.
And that sounds more like a game Scott Pendlebury would have played 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Not now, but he's still doing what he's
he'll
doing.
probably get the 3 Brownlow votes as well.
Probably. And his little apprentice wouldn't be far behind him, Nick Dacos.
Yeah.
But Scott Pendlebury in that game, I think even in the second half, he was a big part of the reason why
100%.
we started actually playing a lot better and more so delivering a lot better from our plays.
I think he was probably one of the few Collingwood players that played well across all 4 quarters.
Yep.
I think a lot of Collingwood players played well in the second half.
Yeah.
So, good on him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Still dominating.
Still dominating, still leading, still doing what he needs to do, and a bit more at times when needed. It was also another player's milestone game, and his name is Brody Myercheck.
You mentioned him as well.
Blue-collar workhorse forward who was picked up as a mature age, around the age of 25.
That's right. Tasmanian,
yep. Back in 2018. And I can almost say, outside of maybe being injured, he has not missed a game.
Yeah, he's been very good for the club.
In terms of form,
yeah.
Or in terms of structure, he's been an amazing player. 5-time leading goal kicker, now a premiership player. They don't make much like him nowadays.
No.
Just a workhorse, just up and down the ground.
His work ethic is sensational.
Yeah. And he played a game 150 on the weekend.
Oh,
kicked a couple of early goals. It didn't help that there was 4 big forwards on the weekend.
He's been an important player for Collingwood for a
very long time.
Yeah.
And I think we also saw a glimpse of his protege, Charlie West,
a bit
on the
quiet,
weekend. He was a bit quiet, but
right.
first AFL game, debut.
Yeah,
Which in the eyes of a lot of Collingwood fans, he looks like the guy that will eventually take Myercheck's spot in terms of when Myercheck moves on. He's the guy to replace him. So we saw a bit of that. But overall, like we said, as good teams do, at the end of it, we came around and delivered in the last quarter. And 2.5 games clear, or 3 games, whatever you want to call it, clear at the top of the ladder now, heading into the back half of the season. Not a bad place to be.
It's a good start. Halfway through the year, but
very good place to be. And then, like you said, there is the big blockbuster Friday night match between Collingwood and Carlton this week.
Very looking forward to that.
Absolutely. And we'll have a bit of more of a chat about that throughout this week's episode. So with saying that,
moving on
into our segment flop and top team of the week.
Yes. So I'll kick us off.
Yep.
Top team of the week, Hawthorn.
Yep.
A friend of mine requested they be the top team of the week, and I agree. I think they dominated North Melbourne.
Yep.
Gunston kicked 7.
Yep.
Maybe Troll kicked 5, and they just looked really, really good down in Tassie.
Yep.
And yourself?
My top team of the week was Gold Coast. I called them the flop team of the week last week for what they delivered or how they finished the game against GWS. But this week, back at home, they bounced back, taught Melbourne
No, they showed Melbourne up, yeah.
very much a good lesson. Their big burst starts to games that they've kind of been on for the last couple of weeks, they didn't fade out late in the game like they have in the past couple of weeks. They actually played out the full 4 quarters and didn't let Melbourne get a sniff and then actually come back into actually, having a go at them. So, yeah, my top team of the week for this week is Gold Coast. And did you want me to start?
Yeah, look, you start.
Okay,
You start.
and my flop team of the week for this week is Sydney. I think last week I made a joke that we should have tipped Sydney to beat Port in Adelaide, and I thought, hey, they got a couple of their big names back, Goulden, Mills, Papley, and I said, these guys were gelling well, and maybe that's all they needed. But then they invited the doggies over at the SCG for Bont's 250th actually, and they
just didn't show up.
Not just they didn't show up, they just couldn't finish the game off because the margin wasn't a big one at the end.
That's true.
But it was more so them just not being able to finish the game off. So if they want to play finals, if they want to have any hope of playing finals this year, I think they need to do a better job at finishing off games. And yeah, that's why they're my flop team of the week. And yours?
Flop team of the week is the Carlton Football
Never
Club.
thought this day would come.
Within the first 5 minutes of that game,
Yep.
I saw it. Every Carlton supporter saw it. The warning signs were there. So I'll leave it there.
Yep.
I don't talk enough about Carlton. And we're going to keep talking about Carlton. So
this week is the big Collingwood and Carlton clash. And we're actually going to that game together.
yes, we are.
And in saying going to that game, we actually have a bit of a surprise for all our viewers, which we won't tell you guys what it is now. Once it happens, you guys will see it.
Out.
Yep, absolutely. So we're heading to the game on Friday.
Looking forward to it.
You're looking or you're not looking forward to it?
Always looking forward to the footy,
Oh,
despite
okay.
what it does
Despite-
to me. Yeah, so
And despite where Carlton are and how they're playing.
Carlton Collingwood is always a big clash.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to start up by asking you,
Yep.
what does Carlton and Collingwood, the rivalry, what does it mean to you?
Ooh, Carlton and Collingwood. I think you can't ever be a sports fan without having a particular team that your whole supporter base wholeheartedly hates and just wants to shit on every chance they get. And don't get me wrong, it helps when the other team that you hate are doing bad as well because it's
fair
just
enough.
more ammunition for you to talk shit about them and give them all the crap in the world. But I think the rivalry just gives you something to look forward to every year.
Does.
Whether Collingwood and Carlton are good, are bad, whether they're at the top of the ladder, whether at the bottom of the ladder, for some reason that
Always
game
an
always
even
delivers.
contest,
It's
yeah.
always
Always an even
a festival
contest.
almost kind of
Always,
thing.
yeah.
And the teams just go up against each other. I can remember when we were playing very well, we played Carlton. For some reason, Carlton turned into prime.
Yeah. Even when we've been shit, but even when we've been down the bottom of the ladder, when it's Collingwood, we show up.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. So
So
it's become a crazy phenomenon. And I think we were talking about this off camera. We've kind of made it a tradition
we have, yeah.
the last couple of years now to try and get to at least one of, if there's 2 Collingwood Carlton
get to
games,
one
one of them. If
at
not, we
least,
try to
yeah.
get to both of them. And we kind of get our friends and our family and
the whole lot, yeah.
literally it becomes like a
It
group
is, yeah.
excursion almost.
It is. We get sometimes 8, 10, 12.
Sometimes
Yeah,
4 or 5 of us. Sometimes a big
so
number of us.
It is always good.
Yeah.
And we celebrate. Well, one half of us tend to be in tears. The other half tend to be.
There isn't that many
rejoicing.
of us Collingwood supporters actually.
Yeah,
in
there's
our
a lot of
group.
us.
There's a lot of Carlton supporters.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't know what was in the water
I
in the
don't
early
know.
2000s.
Check up. We need to check up on them.
I mean, hey, this
Yeah.
week is going to be very interesting for you guys, to say the least.
We'll s-
But yeah, how have you seen the Collingwood and Carlton rivalry?
Yeah, look, I always remember Carlton and Collingwood because my cousin,
Yeah.
he goes for Collingwood.
Yep.
And his dad took us, my uncle, he took us
Yep.
to Carlton Collingwood as kids.
Yep.
So we went as kids growing up.
Yep.
And that's been a big part of sort of, we went sort of every year or every couple of years.
Yeah.
And look, I've always hated Collingwood. I've hated Collingwood.
You have to.
With so much passion. Always hated Collingwood.
I mean,
so,
in all fairness, you're not the only people that hurt Collingwood. It's either you're with us or against us. So
I don't know. It's a game I always get off. It doesn't matter where we are on the ladder.
Yep.
It doesn't matter the circumstances.
Yep.
But I'm looking forward to playing Collingwood again this week. And
I don't know if you want to be looking forward.
I don't
to playing Collingwood. The way
maybe
you guys
not
are going,
as much as previous years, but yeah, there's certainly an intensity.
Yep.
And now, we've turned it into our own tradition with our friends, and
and it's almost like everybody's looking forward now to the Carlton games.
It's the first thing you look for when you look at the fixture, Carlton Collingwood. So.
It's the first text message that goes out when all the tickets are coming out. It's like, hey, who's coming to the Collingwood Carlton game? And everybody be like, yep. And we get absolutely. And speaking of Collingwood and Carlton, we've had a few big names kind of crossover between both teams, and like
we did, yeah.
You know?
So Heath Scotland is one that comes to mind.
Yep.
I think you mentioned off camera he played in the losing premierships.
In the losing grand finals of 02 and 03. Yep.
So came over to Carlton. Great player. I wish we had a player that could kick like him now.
Yeah.
Could kick on both sides of the foot. So he came over.
Funny fact also is part of the reason why the massive brawl between Fev and Didak happened in 07, which happened to be your first game that you went to, which happened to be the reason why I go for Collingwood. And Didak gave him a nice hip and shoulder, or not a nice hip and shoulder, an ugly hip and shoulder.
That's why Fev did
in the first quarter, and then once the first quarter siren went, Fev came and ran through the Collingwood huddle and gave Didak a nice hip and shoulder back for what happened.
That's what happened.
So the irony of that whole situation coming together, where Scotland was a Collingwood player, became a Carlton player, that brawl that happened the day you went to your first game. Which is a whole lot of, coincidences and ironies. But yeah, Heath Scotland, funny you mentioned him. That's part of the reason why, or that is
I did not know
why
that.
that brawl started.
Yeah, I did not know that.
But yeah, he was part of Collingwood's 2 losing grand finals, ended up going to Carlton, becoming a very reliable player for a very long time for you guys.
He did. We struggled, I think, even though whilst he was there, we weren't playing very well. We won a couple of wooden spoons, but he was a good player for us in some dark times. Couple of others. Dale Thomas and Mick Malthouse.
Oh, that one's a bit of a touchy subject. There was some people.
Look,
interesting enough. sorry to cut you off, but interesting enough, Thomas, as most people think, didn't just up and leave Collingwood to go to Carlton. He actually, so he was a free agent, I believe it was at the end of 2013 or 14. And Collingwood had initially offered him a 2-year contract worth, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere over 700 grand.
Jeez.
At the time. And he had, something was wrong with his ankle, or he'd injured his ankle freshly. Something happened. So Collingwood then decided, well, we're not going to do anything with a guy with an ankle injury. And they didn't know the severity of the ankle injury. So they thought it might have been an ongoing, long-term kind of injury. So they ripped up the contract they originally presented him with.
That's why he came over.
So he said, well, if you guys aren't going to actually value me, he was 25 or 26 at the time. So still fairly young, probably in the prime of his career.
Yeah.
He was coming off a premiership in All-Australian only a couple of years back before that. So yeah, once they did that, he's just like, oh, well, if you guys don't want to offer me that, and I'll just go down the road to Princess Park at the time, where Carlton were offering him, I think it was 4 years with a trigger for the 5th.
Yes.
And a little bit more money, or around the same amount of money, just a longer term deal.
Yeah.
And the idea of reuniting with his first and only coach at that point, which was Mick Malthouse.
Yeah, came over I think, a couple of seasons before. Right.
So that kind of pulled him into moving over to Carlton. So as most Collingwood supporters think, Dale Thomas just got up and left. That wasn't what happened. He actually talked about this recently, which is why I wanted to mention it. But yeah, premiership player came over to Carlton.
Yeah, and I think he left with a wooden spoon.
A couple, maybe.
Maybe a couple. And Malthouse didn't fare too well either. I think he played in one questionable final series in 2013.
Yes.
When Essendon missed out.
Yep.
And then he had 2 seasons where we really struggled, and then we decided to do the full rebuild. So
pretty crazy
they haven't all 3 of those that have come over.
Yep.
Scotland,
Yeah, things just went downhill for them.
Yeah. I mean,
Coming from
hasn't been-
premierships and playing in grand finals
dark
to
times.
collecting wooden spoons.
Do you have any memorable moments from Carlton Collingwood? Anything that sticks to mind?
There's a couple, I would say.
Ooh,
There's a couple that I would say, and the first one of them would be the Jamie Elliott goal.
Yes.
I think Jamie Elliott has a vendetta against Essendon Carlton
Yes.
because
Yeah.
of the way he delivers
Oh,
every
Jamie
single time we
Elliott.
play you
Yeah.
guys. Yeah, Jamie Elliott's goal in round, whatever the last round was at the time, in 2022.
22.
Yeah, 2022.
Yeah,
I think we needed to win that game to make the top four. You guys needed to win that game to play finals. But had you guys lost that game, we would make top four and you guys wouldn't play finals. Which, if you ask any Collingwood player, Collingwood fans, sorry, and players probably,
This game still makes me sick.
they would be ecstatic about that fact that happened. I think Scott Pendlebury came out the next day and the media asked him, do you guys feel sorry for the way,
Yeah.
Carlton? And he's like, absolutely not. And I said, yep, that is what a Collingwood supporter should be saying, or a Collingwood player should be saying. Just the lack of empathy. Did not care. He's like, no, doesn't concern me that they missed out on
I
finals.
don't like Pendlebury anymore.
Speaking of Pendlebury,
Yeah.
another memorable moment was what I thought was going to happen to us. What happened to you guys 2 years prior was Pendlebury's 400th game.
Yeah,
McGovern
I know
took
where
a
you're going
mark.
with this.
Yeah. Hey, you said memorable moments. I was at that game actually.
Yes.
And yeah, when McGovern took that mark, I said, oh my God. I said, we're about to lose this game. In Pendlebury's 400th, I said, how are we allowing this? And then he went back and missed it.
Yeah.
He
I
kicked it
remember you
out
guys
of the full, I think. or-
FaceTimed me as soon as the siren went.
Yeah. Yep, we did. We absolutely did. And we said,
Yeah.
your rubbish team. They thought they were Jamie Elliott. They thought they could do this after the siren, which was hilarious. So those, I would say, even though very recent, were the two memorable, I guess, moments for
Yeah.
me. What about you?
Look, I'm going to have to rewind a little bit. I think 2000
Let's go. Run backwards.
We're going back. What are we going back? 10 years? A bit more, maybe
Yeah.
15 years.
Yeah.
Fev kicked 8 a few times against Collingwood.
Oh,
Kicked
yeah.
7, kicked 8, kicked them from everywhere.
2008 was the worst year to
2008,
be a
yeah.
Collingwood
So
supporter.
I
We
think
came up against
2008,
Carlton.
2009 from memory, he kicked them from everywhere. I don't know. Fev always had a day out against
Collingwood.
Collingwood.
Our defenders,
Nathan Brown,
biggest
Harry
nightmare.
O'Brien, you name it, and kicked me.
Yep.
Kicked them from everywhere. Kicked plenty. So
Yep.
those moments stick to mind.
Yep.
Jamie Elliott, unfortunately, for the wrong reasons, I was at the game, and that was heartbreaking. Yeah, so that
more
those
of
two,
a heartbreaking moment than a
yeah,
memorable one,
but
but
I won't forget it. I won't
Yeah.
forget it. But yeah, Jamie Elliott and Fev kicking 8.
yeah.
And the other one, the last one I want to touch on is round 3, 2012.
Yes.
Yeah, so
I remember.
We beat Collingwood by 10 goals.
Yes, I
We were
remember that
premiership
day.
favourites after that game. It was a Friday night. I was at that game. And I remember we were premiership
be
favourites after that game. And
Yeah.
then I think we didn't play finals that season.
Yeah.
And Brett Radden was sacked. At the end of the
Unfortunately,
season,
very
so-
unfortunately, yes, I remember what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And it was not fun at the time.
So no, not great. The ending of the season anyway, but
Yeah.
well, yeah. Hopefully, new chapter.
I
This
don't know about all
weekend.
that this weekend. All I'm saying is if it's the same results from what we've been seeing the last couple of times we've been going to these games, it ain't going to be pretty for you, buddy.
We'll see how we go. We've got to move on.
Yes, absolutely.
To our last segment, my favourite segment, the tipping.
Yes.
We'll do Carlton and Collingwood last, but
Okay.
we'll start with Thursday night at Marvel Stadium, North Melbourne and the Bulldogs.
Ooh. I'll be honest with you. I think the Bulldogs should get over the North very easily.
Yeah, I know there's some sort of celebration for North Melbourne.
I think it's a 1950 something or 50.
75.
75, sorry.
Yeah, so, yeah,
Premiership.
so there's that going on for North,
Yep.
but they're not going to win. The Bulldogs
I
for
mean,
me.
after what happened last week against
Nah.
Hawthorn. I agree.
Yeah, so what do we've got next? We've got Friday night. We've got the West Coast Eagles and the Giants at Optus Oval. The Giants for me. I think the Giants are another team marching.
Yep.
They're playing really, really well at the moment. So
Yep.
I like the Giants over the Eagles.
I can't disagree with you with that one. Yeah, the Giants probably too strong for the Eagles.
strong.
They put up a fight last weekend, but yeah, the Giants should get over the line
Giants.
calmly.
Moving on to Saturday.
Yep.
Saturday we've got Essendon and the Suns.
Yep.
I think this one is at Marvel, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
I may be wrong. But I think the Suns will find a way to win.
I think
Essendon's got too many injuries in yourself.
Yeah, I think the same. I think Gold Coast should get over the line comfortably against Essendon. Like I've been saying for a long time, Essendon are rubbish.
Fair enough.
And nothing is changing. Nothing will change probably. So yeah, Gold Coast should get over the line very comfortably. And I think the next game after that might be another bloodbath. It's Geelong versus Richmond at GMHBA Stadium. And yeah, Geelong should probably cruise over Richmond very, very easily down at the Cattery yourself.
Yeah, the Cats for me. I think Richmond's season's well and truly done. I think they're tired and the kids are struggling to finish off their season. Look up, but yeah,
absolutely. And then the next game, which is I think the twilight game for Saturday, Geelong versus Port Adelaide at the Gabba. What are you saying about that one?
So I think might be Brisbane.
Yep.
So Brisbane, Port Adelaide. Lions for me at the Gabba.
We're not giving Port any hope of putting up a fight.
No way.
Okay.
No way. I think they played really well, but I think it says a lot more.
Brisbane.
I think it says more about Carlton's form last week than how good Port Adelaide were. So Brisbane for me.
Fair enough. We're not giving Port their flowers for their performance.
Nah.
Yeah, I couldn't disagree with that. I think Brisbane should comfortably get over Port up at the Gabba. And the last game for Saturday, St Kilda versus Hawthorn.
Yeah.
I think it's at Marvel, that game. Home game for St Kilda.
Look, I wrote off the Hawks a couple of episodes ago, but
Yes,
I'm
you
back
did.
on their bandwagon.
You did.
So, Hawthorn supporters, please forgive me. I am tipping them against St Kilda.
Yeah, I definitely would agree that Hawthorn should get over the line comfortably against St Kilda. And then we move on to Sunday.
Sunday, yes, we've got Sydney and Freo at the SCG.
Yes.
I think Freo is going to win. I think Freo will actually get up. I think
You
they're
reckon?
playing good footy at the moment. Again, another team I haven't really rated.
Yep.
But I think they're in form and they're
Fair
playing
enough.
good footy. Luke Jackson is on fire.
Yes,
So
yes.
Freo for me.
I think as much as I would love to say Freo and as much as I would love to see them win, they've been on a bit of a run the last couple of weeks, and for them to keep their season and their top 8 chances like well and truly cemented alive, they should get over the line.
I agree.
But I'm tipping Sydney.
Oh, okay.
I think they'll bounce back from their horrid showing, or not so much horrid, but their inability to finish off their game against the Western Bulldogs last week, and at the SCG they should get over the line against Freo
The first tip we've disagreed on
this round. Yeah.
so far.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm looking at the fixture for this round. I can see that it's basically the top 8 versus the bottom 8.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So every team's coming up against a team, that's literally on the opposite end of the ladder of them. So yeah, I think that might be the upset of the round.
That's good.
I'm not gonna write off Sydney and their quality players. When they want to show up and turn up, they do. So I'd say Sydney should get over the line, and then I think that's the last game of the round, which is Adelaide versus Melbourne at Adelaide Oval.
Yeah, spot on. So I think Melbourne season's well and truly done and dusted.
Yep.
I think if it wasn't for Carlton,
Yep.
Melbourne would cop it a lot more in the media.
Probably.
So the Crows for me.
Yeah, I can't. There's nothing that I can go back and forth on that. I think Adelaide should comfortably get over the line against Melbourne and solidify their position in the top 4 even further. And that brings us to
the Friday night blockbuster.
I forgot about the main game of the week. I said, yeah, we're
Carlton
done.
Collingwood MCG
Yes.
prime time.
I mean, I hope the game turns out.
Kickstart us off.
I was going to say, I hope the game turns out to be as prime time as you're making it sound to be right now. Because the way you lot are going is not going to look good for you, buddy. As he says, it's not looking good, bruv. I mean, first versus what is Carlton? 10th, 11th?
11th, yes.
Collingwood. I'm not even going to fight it.
I'm going to tip Carlton.
Wow. Hey, listen,
yeah,
I thought you did a great job this episode, not being delusional, not being a typical Carlton
always
supporter.
a little bit of hope.
No, this is delusion. There's no hope
Just
after what your
tiny bit
team
of
has
hope,
been.
but-
Fair
So
enough.
I'm going to
He said
tip Carlton. Just play with some pride.
Straight to
Play
the
for
camera.
the
Tell them.
jumper. Play with some pride. That's all I ask for. I've tipped you guys.
We're going to this game,
And
like we said, there's going to be a surprise that we're putting together for you guys. So, yeah, if Carlton don't show up that day and it's a bloodbath,
I don't want to come back.
hey, we'll see what happens. We'll enjoy it, hopefully, and it'll turn out to be a great night. But yeah,
Brings us to an end.
officially brings us to an end. I nearly ended this
Nah, it's all right.
a couple of minutes ago. But yeah, brings us to the end of our episode. As always, guys, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Tune in. Let us know in the comments what you guys' thoughts are. If you guys want to see anything new or anything more interesting, if there's any segments that you guys want us to kind of bring back or repeat, we're more than happy to always have fun with it. But until next week, take care, guys. Ciao.